Engagement is unbelievable with what's been happening now. We're just seeing good participation, good student participation. Our retention is exponentially improving. I can't even tell you how much retention's gone up a huge amount. I'm not sure who's talking, but if we could put on mute, that'd be appreciated. Okay, so retention is improving.
On fire.
Whoops. Rick, is that you?
Nope, I'm here by myself.
That kind of sound like you on the voice. So retention has gone up exponentially, 12 months in a row of beating corporate drop budget. And it's mostly because you all are engaged with your students and helping us to deliver and graduate our students. And I can't thank you enough for that. I'd like to excuse Art Waller, Dr. Waller today. He's off with an accreditation review commissioners meeting in Phoenix, Arizona, so he won't join us today. But we're grateful that all of you are with us. With that, let's move to the AR Award. Sherry, would you do the honors?
I would be honored to. The AR Award is always hard to pick because we have such great instructors, but we looked at meeting the criteria and then exceeding the criteria, what we expect from teachers. And the person we chose this month has not only met his criteria but exceeded it. He's done a great job for over a year now here with Vista College Online. And this month he's been instrumental in helping me with other classes, not just his own. So with no further ado, I'd like to congratulate Mark. And Mark, I will say your last name wrong, so you're going to have to say it for me, since I spell it wrong every single time I write it.
Mark Pareda?
Yes. But I spell it wrong because I say it wrong.
It's Pareda.
Mark.
Pareda.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Mark.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very humbled. I'm very shocked too. No, I really love teaching here. I appreciate this. I love these kids. I always call them my kids. I've always called my students my kids when I taught on campus and on here. So I take great pride when they do good, and I feel bad when they don't. So
He takes it all to heart.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Well, I will say that he was highly recommended by our administration team, and that means a lot.
Mark, we're grateful for that you call them your kids. You know, I always say give them infant care. And, you can tell that you are. Your retention is great. Your service to them, what you do with the lessons is just wonderful. So thank you, Mark, and congratulations. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm humbled. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's well deserved. I'm telling you, it's unanimous that you were the one that we should recognize, and it's the least we can do. We're grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You want to talk about unit check assignments?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So I need to share my screen just for a minute. And let me just want to show this really quick. Oh, there's Mark again. All right. So basically with unit check, I just wanted to throw a couple of reminders out. Number one has to do with the mobile app. So the Canvas mobile app isn't totally compatible with Unicheck or plagiarism type assignments. So I just wanted to mention that first of all. If you have a student that is having issues uploading, or they say they can't see the upload button, 9 times out of 10 they're using a mobile device, and not only the mobile device, the mobile app. Now they can still use the mobile device as long as they're using the browser to access the LMS, and they'll see everything just fine. But the mobile app itself has some issues with these types of assignments. So I wanted to mention that. The second and final thing I wanted to mention is, as I just clicked on an example, you can see it takes a couple minutes or a couple seconds for it to load, and that's with a pretty quick connection. I've noticed with some slower connections that it can take 3, 4, even 5 seconds for the particular style of assignment to load up. So keep that in mind. But the other thing I wanted to mention from an instructor's perspective, you can see all the individuals who have submitted here. One last thing to be aware of is once the student submits their final submission, they are not able to resubmit again unless you allow them to. And how you allow them to is you go into the assignment and there's a refresh icon right here. And when you hover over it, it says resubmit. When you click on resubmit, you'll get this little warning message, and then you can click yes. And then what it will do is it'll quickly refresh, and then it will show that that student is now allowed to resubmit. So keep that in mind, guys. It's not like the other native Canvas assignments where they can continually resubmit through that due period. It doesn't work like that. When you do the final submission, that's it. So you'll have to click that refresh icon to allow them to resubmit. For example, if they, submit the wrong assignment or something like that, you got to hit that button for them, and then they'll be able to resubmit. So I just wanted to throw it out there, and then answer the questions you may have.
Beautiful. Any questions for Carson?
Hey, Carson, this is Neil. I've got a question for you that one of my students in my U.S. history class ran into that I found really unique. And it's she had emailed me, or excuse me, she was texting me and said, hey, I see that I still got a 0 on my assignment. Did I plagiarize or what's going on? So I was running through the Detroit airport and was able to sit down and pull out my computer and look and figure out what was going on. And on my screen, it was showing that nothing had been submitted. And I told her that. I texted her back and said, hey, I think you're mistaken. You haven't submitted anything. But on her screen, it was showing that it had been fully submitted. And she took a screenshot on her phone and sent it to me. Is that what you're talking about when you mean some upload problems?
Well, that can definitely be part of it. I would have to look at her individual case to determine whether that is really the case or something else. But if you want to shoot me an email of who it is, maybe I can kind of diagnose it for us. Okay,
I can do that. She had sent it to me an email, and I told her that if she couldn't go in and get it resubmitted, that I could try to upload it, on her behalf. But I'll send it to you. That way you can maybe troubleshoot it as well.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
All right, great. Thanks, man.
Hey,
you're welcome.
Neil, was that recent?
Yes, within the last few days.
Well, that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I know we had a little period of trouble there a few weeks ago, but last couple of days we shouldn't have had any, so that's interesting.
Right.
Well, Dr. Banks, actually, the communication happened within the last few days, but it was a week 1 assignment, and I just didn't know because I wasn't seeing anything, and until she reached out and asked about her specific grade. So I apologize. It was a few weeks old with regard to the assignment itself.
We had a 2 or 3 day problem that Carson took care of, so it's probably got hung up at that point, would be my bet.
Understood.
Yeah, very possible.
Can you give me back the screen there, Carson?
There you go.
Carson has the magic control, huh? That's always good. Well, great. Thank you. Any other questions for Carson as it pertains to the UniCheck? Hey, Tracy, why don't you talk about late submissions?
Hi, I just wanted to give everybody a friendly reminder, especially as we go into these last couple of weeks of the term, to keep an eye out on your late submissions from the students, because it's very important that we're being able to update that grade book again as we go into the last part of the term here, especially when you have students on Dropout Detective. Dropout Detective updates once a day, and if that student, you may have already, completed your grading for the week, you are still held to those same turnaround times for the late assignments. It's not acceptable to wait another 4 days or another week to pick up those late assignments. So be sure that you're watching your grade books or looking at your submission bucket so you know how many days you've had assignments sitting out there for those students. That's all.
That's it? Questions for Tracy?
Hello, Tracy.
Yes.
Hey, this is Antoine. I don't know if everybody knows this. I'm assuming they do, but when you log into your course, this is something I did recently and forgot to do a while back. When you go into your account and hit notifications, you can set up which email you want late assignments to send you an alert to. So you can get updates every time a late submission is made. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you.
Does everybody know how to do that?
No.
That would be a good training thing. Carson, you want to take that and see if we can't create an email so that people can know how to do that?
Yeah, I'll send something out shortly.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Tanya, you're up with roll call and second half development requirements.
Okay, let's do the roll call first. Angela Hammond. Cynthia Bennett. Don Pearson.
Here.
Thank you. Glenda Lloyd. Kevin Smith. Lisa Banks. Mark McCoy.
Mark McCoy is here. Thank you.
Lisa, did Lisa say she was here? Okay, Sandy McDonald.
Here.
And Tracy Eason. Okay, thanks, guys. The other thing I needed to talk about was your second half of the year in-field development is still needed by the end of this month. So, and that's a requirement for you to teach for Vista College. So please make sure you get those to me as soon as possible. And if you need to know what is accepted as an in-field development, I can send you the expectations, or you can check with your program director.
Right. You know, we're required to have current and relevant training and education to be faculty members, not only by our accreditor as well as TWC. So that's the reason we push along. And so for the most part, everybody does a good job of staying on top, and we appreciate it. But there are some that are outstanding. So do your best to complete that task. Very much appreciate it. Any questions on that? No? So last time we met, we talked about non-cognitive factors, right, that affect retention. And we did a little survey, and I don't know if I recall, I don't think we had finished the survey when we talked, but the long and short is we have learned that 71.3% of our students are first-generation students. First generation means they're the first to go to college in their family. We've even dug in a little bit further and learned that not only do we have, you know, basically the majority of our students as first generation students, the majority of them are coming because they needed a degree to get the job, and that there's a survey that we do when students are applying to come to school. Wonderlic, there's a survey that tries to predict a risk factor, and what we've learned is many of them are coming to finish something that they started. While they don't show as like ever going to college before, there are many of them that actually say they've got a high school degree, but they put the other comment, I need to finish what I started. I need a degree to get the job. I want to take care of my family. And that's a high percentage of students that are saying that. So, you know, it's led us to, some of you were involved with our what can we do to improve graduation rate. So discussions that we've had on programs. And I would tell you that with a high degree of first-generation students and with the statements, I need to finish what I started. In other words, I didn't cut it the first time I went to school. We do need to pay attention to these non-cognitive factors, and we are doing that. One of the things that we'll be doing is, we're collecting data and we're designing our strategies for student success. I mentioned to you that we have exponentially improved retention, which means we'll improve graduation rate. And one of the factors that came out from the root cause analysis meeting is the fact that we need to build relationships with our faculty to student, student to student, student to faculty, student to staff. Relationship is a key factor, especially for first generation students. So what we need to do is to continue to build confidence and relationships in two ways. One, confidence, personal confidence. These first generation students, they really wonder if they can finish school, and they can because of good faculty like you, but they need their confidence built by giving good feedback, quality feedback, prompt feedback, confidence building statements. We've talked about that. But they also need the confidence built in the content area, in the topics. And so we're straddling this whole idea of building confidence from two perspectives. One's content, the other is personal. We have student services that help us to build confidence, and we have you to build confidence. In fact, you're a key aspect of doing that. And we're doing something with the data. In the months to come, we'll share with you the data that we've found. But long story short, 71.3% are first generation. The bulk of our students really have lower cognitive ability, which means they need more, I use the word infant care, but they need more relationships and more focus on the non-cognitive factors, like meaning I can do this, and they've got the support to finish school, and there's a belief that I can do it. So there's and how do we build that? It really comes from excellent feedback, constructive feedback. I cannot stress how important it is that the feedback be confidence building, be prompt, and be of quality to help a first generation student to know that he or she is doing well or not. And you can say you're not doing well, but it's how you say it. It's not what you're saying. And so we're going to have a few series of how to get constructive feedback. With that, I've asked Sherry to kick us off with the first session of constructive feedback. So Sherry, do you want me to share the screen with you?
Can you already have the PowerPoint pulled up, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
Would you mind?
Oh yeah, no problem. I kind of worried that, yeah, I know what you mean. So let me get this slide going.
Excellent. Thank you so much for letting me do this. I love being first on this. We're going to do this a little differently today. I'm going to go through just some of the things that Dr. Banks has talked about, and some of the things we're going to talk about is how to give good constructive feedback to students. I know that I do this oftentimes in email, but we're going to go ahead and do it in person. In addition, then after I finish a short lecture, because all of you have done this for a while, then I'm going to do some examples of feedback that I found in classrooms, and you guys are just going to tell me, do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think it meets where we're going to go, where we want to go? And what you think, how you would improve it. I want you to know that they were pulled from random classes. They were pulled not to say they're good or bad or indifferent. It's really just how could we improve it? Because that's what we're really here for. We're all here to make sure we retain our students and, my favorite, the VISTA motto, to create opportunities for them in the future. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. Thank you. I know you guys have heard this 100 times, but I think it's important to remind ourselves that students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I find that a lot of our students, all of you are very intelligent in your field and very intelligent in many areas. And so what we need to do is to make sure, besides knowing about your letters after your name, that they also know that you care about them as a person. And so I like to start feedback with, how are you? What are you doing? I have notes on students where we can say, you know, how's your dog? I look at profile pictures sometimes and ask students, there's a student who has a picture of her husky in her profile picture. So cute. And sometimes I start with that because they want you to care first, and then they'll do the rest for you. Next slide. Thank you. Effective feedback focuses on learning, compares student performance, detailed and descriptive, and holds a support tone with suggested action steps. Tell them supportively what they need to do and how they need to get there, not just, hey, you got a 7%, you really didn't put much effort in, what are you going to do? Tell them how to get there. When research has found when feedback is predominantly negative, studies have shown that it can discourage student effort and achievement. If you constantly tell me, just as a parent, I mean, I'm sure many of you kids, if you constantly tell your child that they are failing and they're not meeting what they need to meet, they'll stop trying. It's the same thing at work. You've all, a lot of you are business majors, and so you've heard the, you know, performance evaluations. You don't want to tell someone all the reasons they suck. You want to tell them all the reasons they're doing well and how to improve. Mm-hmm. This is just a model I found that kind of gets us to the same place. It's called RISE because it's an easy one to remember. To reflect, for example, I relate, I concur, I disagree with this because. I like what you did with X because. Inquiring, have you considered it looking at another perspective? Suggesting, what else could I do? And then elevating, perhaps next time you can try this. I see a lot of people say, oh, you met the assignment criteria, you've gotten an A. Probably not enough. Take it the next step. Take it to how this affects their workplace. Next one, thank you. It should inspire, feedback should inspire personal and academic confidence. When Dr. Banks was just talking about our first generation college students, we have a large percentage of those, and sometimes they come to school and they're not as confident in their academics and they're not as confident personally, and you have to work to build that confidence. And again, I think every student can do it, but they just need that confidence to know they can. And sometimes you might be the first person in their life who believed in them. Again, we're a career college. Always remember that. Feedback should relate to how this matters in their future career. Look for ways to bring it back to what they need to learn for their career. For example, a lot of students need to see that connection because they are based on what they need to do. So if it's an accounting assignment and it matters that that's something they're going to do in their job, tell them that. Make sure you tell them why it's important to learn this skill, not just, you need to learn this because I said so. I feel like that's my daughter's geometry homework. One of the things you need to do is, and I tell teachers this from the first day, is to get to know your students. You can't give constructive feedback if you don't know where they're coming from or what they're trying to achieve. Take a couple minutes. I think a lot of you now are, before the first class, just sending them a welcome email. Hey, how are you? Let's connect. Let's talk about things. To kind of find out why they're in class. We don't have classes with a huge number of students. I think our highest class is 20, maybe 22. That's enough students that you should be able to make some kind of connection with the students, so that you kind of know where they're coming from and you know what their goals are. I see a lot of copying and pasting, which I know we've all done at some point with feedback. Try to think about your student and know that each one is different. And so sometimes they're going to absorb feedback differently, and you may have to phrase it differently depending on where they're coming from. Be approachable. I know, again, that all of you are very intelligent and all of you have lots of letters after your name. But I've also seen a lot of you really break down those walls and do a wonderful job of making sure that you are approachable to students. I've seen people talk about their gardening in their intros. Teachers who are now doing videos where they show their personalities and they show who they are. Make sure that you're not just the stuffed head in the front of the classroom, and virtual classroom, obviously.
Sherry, can I make a comment here?
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Yes.
One thing that I think is important is a lot of that personality comes out in the discussion questions, and I don't think that we're going back and looking at those discussion questions to glean information on their personalities. I was looking at one teacher that I'll call out, Angela Hammond, and she actually referenced two students in a video, in a discussion question post from a different week. Said, hey, I remember that Julie said this one. How would that help here? And I thought, that's it. That's how, I mean, for a student to see their name referenced by the instructor, what more could you want?
That's true. And to look back to the last week. And that's especially true in those intro classes because they're still finding out who they are and how this education thing works. And so I love that.
I think you do that very well, Sherry, just as a kudo.
Thank you. And so I'd like to see we have those relationships. Again, when I talk to a student, the first thing I talk about is something from their personal life that they've told me. I don't obviously bring up something that is, you know, a FERPA violation or something. Make the feedback a conversation, not a decree. That's why I tell people to pick up the phone sometimes. When you tell someone you did poorly on your last essay, and I've seen it said many times, and of course, you know, I've been teaching 15 years, I've said it before. Instead of saying that, maybe say, what do you say we go over some things that we can improve in the next essay? That way, instead of focusing on the negative, we're focusing on the positive that's going to occur, because learning is a process. Obviously, if we started every class perfect, we wouldn't need school. Definitely something to look into.
Well, I'll tell you a little line that I use at the end of the students' assignments is, let's see if we can improve this for this week's assignment.
Also a very good point. And we've all heard feedback should be educative in nature. We want to make sure we tell them what they're doing correctly and incorrectly. Don't just tell them what they're doing that's bad. Tell them what they're doing is good. Oh, hi, Angela.
Hey, finally you can see me. I've been on a call and everybody
talk about you.
I've been trying to tell you guys that I've been here, but for some reason I couldn't get my phone to unmute the whole entire time.
Okay. Use the concept of a feedback sandwich to guide your feedback. Compliment, correct, and then compliment. I've seen a lot of people starting out, and again, I've done it before too, is you've earned a 7% in this class, or you've earned a 7% on this assignment. Well, I have to tell you the truth. I stop reading at that point if someone tells me I'm suck that bad. I just do. And so I guess that our students do too.
Sherry, can I interject here?
By all means.
Another phraseology that a lot of us use is, you did really well in this discussion board, but blah, 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 blah. That totally negates the good compliment you just gave. That but
Thank you. Another good point.
So I have really, really worked at losing the use of the word but. And a lot of times I'll actually end the sentence and then start, here's where we can improve, like you just said.
That is a very good point, because I just yesterday went to say something and then I said but, and the person I was talking to said, well, I've just now ignored everything you said until the word but, because that's what you really mean.
Right.
So that's a really good point.
So if you can put and I usually put it in caps, you did really well and we have room to improve, blah, blah, blah. It's so much better.
Well, that's
very good point. Thank you for the reminder.
That's what I learned from Larry, the two words, to improve. You know, you did great on this. To improve, do this.
Very good point. Okay, next one. Thank you. Also, timely feedback. Don't wait until the end of the week or to the last possible second. If you have time, you're welcome to grade things when a student turns them in early. Make sure that you give them feedback as soon as possible. And again, I know you all know that. Also, in addition to the sandwich method, I found this one, which I thought was pretty cool. 3 stars and a wish. It's a little different. The 3 stars are things you liked about their work. And a wish is one area which to see improved upon. Then you're showcasing the positive reinforcement and giving them a clear thesis, not just generalized feedback. I liked it. And again, just because a student gets 100% doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean there's nothing you can say. Sometimes you can say, you know, you've done a great job in this assignment. I really like the way you, so that way you're telling them, what am I doing right so I can do that again in the future? Just giving someone 100% doesn't tell them what they've done right. And I like feedback, and everybody knows this about me. I like to hear I'm great, and I'm sure students like to hear they're great. Mary knows you start every conversation with I rock. We all like to hear good things, right? Don't you guys all like it when I call you or I send an email and the first thing I say is, you are doing a great job? We all like to hear it, and so do our students. So start with the positive. Start with how much they are doing well. And now I'm going to flip it because I've said everything and you guys have all taught here for a long period of time. So let's look at some examples. We're going to do the flipped classroom online. Let's look at some examples and see. Again, these were randomly picked. There are some changes made. This is a student who didn't complete an assignment on time, and this is what the instructor said. You still have time to submit this assignment for points to improve your grade average. You have until Thursday, and this was the end of the class. You can do it. What do you think? Is that enough? How would you respond to a student who didn't turn an assignment? What might you add? What do you think is good about this one? Your turn. You just love it? There's nothing to improve?
I think if they included the name, Tanya still have time to submit, you know, so it's positive because they're saying you still have time. It's not you're late. So it's a positive beginning. And let's improve your grade. The only thing I would add is, you know, you still have time to learn and to make points. I always put learn first.
Oh, very good point. Jenny also just said on chat, she would add what the assignment was.
Correct, also.
So that the student knows this is what I need to do, because a lot of times they're connecting by their phone or they're connecting in a way that they have to go back into the classroom and look it up. So that's also a really good point. Tell them what the assignment was. What about asking if they have questions, giving your phone number in case they have questions?
Yeah.
I think sometimes asking, I like to say, what questions do you have instead of do you have questions? Because we know they have questions if they're late, right? But instead, and that helps them know that we're already there to help them instead of, I think a lot of times we say, what questions do you have? You kind of in your mind, you're like, well, maybe that's not a good question, right? But if we just state out, what questions do you have? Then that opens the door already to, oh, I do have questions. Let me get an answer for them. I also think I'd add on to here that say, hey, let's not make next week more hectic by having more late assignments. Let's get them done this week while we still have time or something. That way I always get I just don't have time to do it, right? And we're all super busy people too. And I think we know that you stack stuff on that plate, it just makes that plate break. So help them recognize that, kind of see the consequence of their choosing to skip the assignment, kind of would help out here.
Thank you. That's a really good idea.
I do that too, in the sense of I tell them that overall stress is cumulative. You know, it's the medical part of me. So that if they do a little bit every day, they avoid that evil stress at, 11 o'clock at night on Sunday when they only have 55 minutes to do everything they should have been doing all week. And I put that up front very early with each and every one of them to avoid the stress.
Hi, Glenda, do you have anything to add? I saw you talking.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking about what Ann just said, cumulative stress. That's a good one.
That's a
I
good
need to let my students know that too. I like to add if there's anything I can help you with or help you to understand the material, to contact me. I like that.
Good one. Peggy Jones also just said contact me so we can talk about a plan to get you
contact me.
Yeah.
Yes,
Contact. I think that's important, and that's what Dr. Banks has been pushing since the beginning is Contact, because sometimes, again, it's getting them on the phone. Can we switch to the next one? I have some other examples that teachers have used for this.
I'm trying to get it to move.
Hey, Sherry, this is Dan Ferentz. I have one comment. If there is a way that you can use their past performance to kind of encourage them that they can do well, that builds their confidence and gives them a reason. Instead of just implying, hey, you can get some points, say, I saw this and you can do well on this assignment, so please submit it.
Dan, that is excellent. Thank you. The building of the confidence, which we talked about. Perfect.
Yep.
I have a couple other examples, and you guys can give me your feedback on these. And by the way, I've changed almost every name in here to Mary because it was just easier. That way nobody would know who it was. Mary, I know you've been struggling with getting your work in the last couple of weeks, and I'm hopeful everything is going okay with you. What do you think?
It personalizes it, and obviously that teacher knew something was going on. It doesn't tell us what the teacher needs the student to do, though.
Right. Anybody else? Mark, I know you're there. Any comments?
Yes, I am definitely here. This is George. They might want to add about contacting the instructor if they need help, if something is going on.
Also a very good point.
Yeah, I always like to ask if you have any questions, email, text, or call me. I try to give them all three options because some students like one method of communication better than the other.
Good point. I do the same thing. Just kind of throw it out there. Just in case.
That personal contact. What about the next one with focusing on the late policy? Because that's really what they're doing in the next one.
I think it's over focus. I think it's too much.
I think it's too much there.
Yeah. Dan Worsler, you're on the call. What do you think? Can you hear me?
You're talking about the very last one there?
Yeah.
Example. Yeah, I think it's a little bit too much information. What I'd like to do on something like this is just try and kind of start a little bit of a dialogue to find out maybe a little bit of why they're getting behind on their assignments. I've noticed that if I can kind of let them know that I have empathy for them and what they're going through, or I'm willing to have empathy if they let me know what's going on in their life, sometimes they'll just kind of open up and say, yes, I know I've been going through this right now, and it's just a temporary reason. But I feel that by me showing empathy and interest on why they're getting behind in their assignments, that allows them to open up a little bit more to me.
Fantastic. Thank you. Larry, can you switch to the next one? I want to get to some feedback on assignments. These are a couple more on failed to submit on time. I'm just put them in here because I think that, and I think we can all agree these are examples of not enough. The first one is close. The second one I think is, again, good but not enough. And then the third one I think is exactly what we're trying to avoid, which is you failed to post to the week 1 discussion board. Probably not enough, right?
Well, it's also very negative, right?
Yes. Okay. This was in a general studies course. Mary, it looks like the check for spelling strategy you were working wasn't working well for you. Let's see if we can come up with a better way to check your spelling. What do you think? Beth, I see you're on. You teach English. Can you hear me? Beth Lee. All right, Anita, what about you?
I just feel as though maybe a little bit more information, a little bit more specific.
Right, this was the feedback for the entire paper.
For the entire paper, yeah. Just a little bit more information. And just again, just encourage the student to contact you and to maybe set up a time that would work best.
Again, yes, you're right. Setting up a time, like set up a time in Zoom, set up a time.
Right. Yeah, a lot of them have very different schedules. So, what works best is always better for everyone involved.
Jenny Mark also just said she'd identify where they struggled in spelling. Peggy Jones said that there's no positive here. Sorry, I'm reading it off the chat. Also, just to know, again, there's no positive here and there's no anything else. Also, I mean, spelling is a pretty easy one. You might want to just tell them to make sure that they run the spell checker in a nice, positive way.
Right.
So definitely something we can look into.
But however, not all languages are in spell check. Medical and legal, I would suspect, have difficult issues with spelling.
Oh, absolutely. And legal throws in Latin all the time too. So yeah. Next one. Hey, Mary, great job in this assignment. Thank you for quoting a reference source at the end of your paper. And by the way, these are real. This is a business course.
Well, you know, business people are bullet point type people, right? They just bullet point everything. So
Yeah, this is definitely a bullet point. Let's get a business teacher to answer me. Antoine, what do you think? Antoine, I know you're there.
Yeah, I was unmuting.
Sorry.
I'm going to assume this better have been an A paper, but if not, it needs to be a lot more feedback there. I'm trying to think of anything else that could have been added here. Other than the references at the end, I think they could have added. I'm just assuming if this was an A paper, that's the only reason I could think of the limited feedback. If this was 100% A.
Even on an A paper, shouldn't we have something else here?
Why was it great?
Let's look.
There could be more. There can be more encouragement to like keep it up throughout the. You know, what they could maybe do differently, or what they can continue to do. Encourage them to keep a good job on maybe the organization of the paper, or find a key point that they addressed in the paper, and encourage them like,
absolutely, hey, prove you read the paper, right?
Yeah. So
how many times have students went to go, and this happens to me all the time, students will be like, my last teacher didn't even read my papers, they just put an A on it. So, and I'm always like, I'm sure they read it. Well, the feedback didn't show they read it.
Sherry, I think that statement may also be something very profound. If we go back and look at that, can we go back and look at that comment just one more time?
Who's talking? I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not coming up.
This is Mark McCoy.
Oh, hi, Mark McCoy, sorry.
So in this statement, it says, hi, Mary, great greeting. We have brought the student into our conversation. Great job on the assignment. I saw your assignment and I think it was great based on me being your instructor. I know your past work may have challenges, but this work, I see that it was a great job that you did on the assignment. The student for the quote and the reference, that means that the instructor last time the assignment was submitted, there was no reference. So we now is noted you quoted your reference, and I see it all the time.
But reading, yeah, you have to read the peripheral of that. But we should probably put that in there so the student knows. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but what I want to say that I'm thinking that folks are not really getting is that this is reflecting something that occurred in the previous paper. So let's understand where this is coming from so that we can understand why the statement here. And that's all that I wanted to say, Sherry.
Sure, absolutely. But I think that we probably should reference that with the students so they know that you're looking at their work as a whole, and that they know that you do know who they are. Again, it's all about knowing your student, and I think that's a good point.
Hey, Sherry.
Yes, sir.
This is Dan Wursler. The thing on this, if I was a student getting this, I'd be happy, but I'd like to hear, the person says, great job on this assignment. My question would be, what great job? give me specifics on what I did.
Specifics, exactly.
Because on a paper, an assignment, a report, there's a lot of functions that we have to do to put it all together and to make it a great job. Please give me some bullet points on what you found so great about this assignment.
Excellent point. Let's look at the next one because I think that'll kind of do what you're saying.
Just one more comment though. We are also doing the rubric with it as well. That's what I'm assuming. They're reading that rubric and that's telling them what they did well, specifically why they got a good grade, why they got their A. But now I should also be saying I like this part of your paper to let them know. But these comments don't include the fact that we are also returning rubrics with them.
Absolutely, but the rubrics
where the grade came
pretty general. Yeah, Christy, you're right. But the rubrics are pretty general, and they're the same for each. Sometimes they're not going to give them the same feelings of connectedness that personal feedback will do. But thank you, Christy. That was a really good point. What about this one? I'm not going to read it all because it's long. And that's probably good, right? They start with how well you understand it. They tell them what the issues are. They tell them how it relates to their career. They tell them what they looked for. They told them they did well examples, and then they told them what they can improve. What do you think? The only problem I saw is the student's name was Jeff, and they put a different first name.
Oh.
Be a bad thing because it means you copied and pasted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, Sherry, this is David.
Yes.
Hey, I was just going to say that's exactly what it looked like to me. It's a whole lot of material there, but it looks like it's just copied and pasted from one student to another as far as, three quarters of it is basically the directions of the assignment and just a couple of words of what they didn't do. But even that, not specifically what they didn't do or why they didn't do it.
David, exactly. That's the thing I noticed with this one. I like their idea, but this could be written 6 months before the class started, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's not personal to that paper at all.
Right. Anybody else? Business teacher, let me think. I'll just look at the list. Their business teacher talks, or I pick one. Keith Strom. Or Chris Wright. You both teach.
What would you like to know, Sherry? I'll stir it up.
Good. Chris Wright, what do you think about these comments?
I think that this is boring and bland, and it doesn't offer any insight. You're not really sharing your expertise. There's no support for what has improved from week to week. In fact, I'm thinking I might have to talk to Rick about a raise after reading some of these examples you shared. That
was the best line ever. I should laugh, but that's funny. I like that. Good point. Yeah. And again, they've got information here, but this could be shared before the paper's graded, right? This is just basic information. It's got words, which is good, but we need specifics. Exactly. Next one. And I did not just pick on business, they're randomly. I'm not going to read this one out loud either, but they start with a positive. They specifically reference the student's paper. They ask them questions they could have thought of. They remind them about the requirements of the paper. They were supposed to write 1 full page. And then they add them to add more depth. What do you think of that? How about Charlotte? Can you hear me or can you respond? I know you sent a text. So you might not be able to respond. Don Pearson, are you on the call?
I am indeed.
Okay, what do you think of this one? Since you're
Unfortunately, I can't see it, but in the grand scheme, if we're looking at creating a positive atmosphere, sometimes we do follow the rubric. I will say myself, I do try to address each point of every aspect of the assignment, tell them what they do well on what points, what they can improve on another section, let them know what they missed.
Good. Dan Jones, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
What do you think about this one?
I feel like this is one of those that clearly the instructor wanted to tell the student a lot. So probably one of those conversations that should have been a, hey, I liked what you did in your paper. Let's find some time to talk about how we can get to the next level, kind of a comment, as opposed to another essay for the poor student to have to write to be able to respond to the instructor.
Yeah, Sherry, can I ask you this? It looks like someone's trying to incorporate a Socratic method for feedback here with the questions that they're asking, but is this intended to stimulate some kind of a conversation, do you think? Because if I have questions for students about their papers, or if I want to make suggestions as to where they could improve, I'm going to post links to resources that are going to help them answer the questions, or share a phone number, or make an appointment, or, I mean, there has to be more than just asking rhetorical questions, right?
Interesting. What does anybody think about that?
I believe that the questions they're asking here were in the assignment and were not addressed by the student's paper. Is what what my feeling when I read it.
Well, I think here
you did not respond to these particular parts of the assignment. Could have been brought out better, I think. But.
Well, I think that's one of these things that if there's this much feedback needed, then maybe that's where the instructor needs to look at the actual course and say, okay, how come all of this was missed, right? If those are all the requirements and it was all missed, then what do we need to do to clear that up, right? Because that's a lot to miss in one go.
Well, don't you sometimes, and I don't know this, but I'm okay with putting the questions in, and then if you want to put a phone number in, but your response can't always be just call me. Your feedback can't always be just call me, right?
Well, I don't know that it's always going to be call me, but I think that if you fear that a student truly does not understand key concepts from the week, and you're not going to give them a chance to rewrite the assignment to prove that they learned it, then there has to be some kind of outreach, some kind of offer of assistance to give some guidance as to how they can improve going forward. That's a good
point. So maybe put in here, you're right, maybe add to this, hey, let's talk. You're right. That's a good point. But I wouldn't take all of this out. Personally, I wouldn't. Because if your response is only, hey, just call me, then I don't think we're doing this.
If everybody is missing all of these questions, then that might be the time to set up a Zoom meeting on a Saturday morning.
Great advice. Thank you.
Well, and also the thing is if you do just let's call, then you're not putting it in the Dropout Detective. It's not helping the course people build a better course, because if that many people are missing that many things, then the course isn't built correctly or not focused intently enough or whatever. So, we have to document. If it's not documented, it wasn't done.
True. Next one.
I think in this case, just ask one question on the last one you did. The whole paragraph with 3 or 4 questions in there. Just pick one.
What about this one? Nice job on the assignment. Make sure you're referencing sources you used at the end of your paper. There's nearly 4% similarity, so some content research was pulled from somewhere. That's all the advice they got.
That's useless feedback.
Wow.
Not only that, but, we tell the children not to text, and someone started a first line with a lowercase n.
Very good point.
That's what I was going to say, too.
Right.
Yeah, the teacher is not practicing. Good example there.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to skip this one. Go to the next one. Sorry.
I was going to say we're getting short on time there, Sherry.
I know. Okay. Mary, this is speech course. Main thing in your critique is to separate writing. With texting, you can use a lowercase. In speech or English, it has to be formal. Good use of format for your critique. Good points on your strengths and areas to improve. Do you find we use the word good and excellent a lot when we send feedback? Does anybody own a thesaurus?
Yeah, in the middle of this all has to do with punctuation. It doesn't have anything to do with communications or English.
True. And nor should matter in life.
Nor should you use the word thing.
Another good point.
Right.
Mark McCoy just asked if I have a good example in here. You know what? I pulled them all from classes. So it's what we have out there.
Hey, state the positive, give one suggestion, restate the positive, and close.
Yeah. Let's do one more. I know I told Larry to keep me on time, and then I'm ruining it. Excellent submission. It's evident you've gotten the 3 types of business organizations.
Wasted post.
Yeah. I don't even know if you read the paper, right? Make a connection with the student again. These are also, these are criminal justice, so I promise you I did do my own. Again, excellent, good, all things that we see a lot. We all have thesaurus. This is an excellent assignment that addresses all the topics required. You've done very well. I mean, maybe tell them again what they've done well. Next one, and then again, texting speak, I can hear and say it.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, okay. I like this one. Now, maybe you might not, but I like this one. I meant to get to this one. English. Thank you for sharing your special story. Your narrative was structured logically with developed paragraphs and supportive examples, giving the sense of realism and genuineness. By doing so, you were able to connect with the reader. Through your descriptions and wording, the reader truly felt your love and compassion that you have for your daughter. Super job, thanks.
I think there should be a to improve in there somewhere.
Oh, the student got a perfect, though.
That means perfect.
Oh, but I think she did a really good job.
Maybe there's always something you can work on.
You're right. There is always something you can work on. What does anybody else think? You asked for a good example. That was not a good example.
Well,
and now, guys, the PowerPoint. And thank you for listening to me and talking with me tonight. I really appreciate your guys' time.
Hey,
Sherry. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
Good job, Sherry. Thank you.
Sherry, thank you for the good job of doing the research on the feedback. I cannot stress how important it is that we pay attention to providing constructive feedback to first generation students. Remember, our mission is to catch them doing things right. Somebody used the word cheerleader earlier, but a really important thing for us to do with first generation students is to build confidence in not only personal confidence, but confidence in the topic that you're teaching. How best to do that? Catch them doing something right, let them know where they need to improve, and catch them doing something right. With that, I really appreciate each and every one of you. Again, good things are happening at Vista College Online because of you. You make or break every course that we deliver. It's you that makes the difference. It's not the technology. It's what we do with the technology to cause learning. Keep up the good work, and thank you for being here today. Talk to you all later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.